What are we talking about?
I don't know. It's a great question. Brian was like, "You said you were gonna talk about traveling with pets." And I was like, "Oh, I could do that. That could be a nice short episode." And then he goes, "What's Chris gonna contribute?"
Hey, adventurers, welcome to Let's Just Go podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kayla, and today we are talking all about traveling with your pets, which is something that I did 2 weeks ago, a week and some change ago. It was a very stressful experience, but we're here to talk a little bit about what that was like and why it didn't need to be as stressful for me as I made it for myself.
Is it a pet rock?
No, it's pet rock. No, it was my cats that you see if you watch these videos, you see them all the time.
Well, let's just talk about pets in general. We've actually talked a little bit on here about our pets. You have two cats. I
Mhm.
have three dogs. Um, right, we have the cat people versus the dog people. We all it's very traveling with pets can be a very polarizing. Oh, one of your cats is creeping by out through the door crack over
Oh,
there.
I'm like, "Where?"
Thanks. Um, but very polarizing, right? So some people think it's great, others say absolutely not. Um, and you and I travel a lot, so let's put one thing out in the open that I'm hoping we can all agree on: fake, fake, um,
Emotional support animals.
fake emotional support animals. Uh, no,
They're
just
not
we'll
service
just leave it at
dogs
all.
or service
They are not.
cats or
Yes,
service horses.
if you're emotional support anything, right? Yeah, service dog, right? Service whatever. I was at the Phillies game yesterday, and there was a woman with a dog in a stroller. Okay, I had more questions than answers, right? And I got to be really honest. What the fuck was that? What is that? What's happening? Um,
You go to the
I'm
grocery store and people have their dogs. That is the last place I wanna see an animal.
in the with the food.
Yeah.
So I love pet. We love pets, but
Yeah.
I think there is a time and a place for that for them. And I do one thing that just gets under my skin, and you guys, you listener, feel free to, is when I see fake service dogs and service animals, right? Because if your dog is jumping on me,
Mhm.
it is not well trained.
Yeah.
It's not well trained, period, whether it's a service animal or not.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't see you in a place where animals are generally prohibited with your unruly animal. Again, just something that gets me, but we see it all the time as we travel in all
Yeah.
these different places. So, all right. So, talk to us though before we get to talking more about actual destinations and accommodations with pets. You have to get your pet to the place,
You do.
and so you flew with two cats,
Mhm.
and what was that like?
It was actually it went really smoothly, but being the unknown for me is always very stressful, especially, like, I'm a very well-traveled person. I know how to, get in and out of the airport as efficiently as possible, and I was like, "Oh my god, what do I do?" What do I have not just 1, but 2 cats. They're also large cats. Pearl is 15 pounds and Binks is almost 22 pounds. So they are not small cats. Like, I'm not, like, transporting kittens. Um,
Pearl's thick. She's
she
thick.
is. She is. And Binks is just, like, he's a very large cat. Everyone's always like, "Is he a Maine Coon?" And he's not, but he's about that size. So we know that Binks is a very anxious cat. He's very easily spooked. He's always been that way. And so I was the most nervous about taking him on the plane because I knew he was going to freak out. I knew that he would mostly just like cower in fear if he was on the plane. Like once loud things happen, like taking off and landing is very scary for me. So I can only imagine how it is for a cat that has no idea what's going on.
Oh dear Jesus.
Yeah, and I no shade to people who put their animals in cargo. I understand that for some people that is the only option that you have, especially like your dogs would have to go in cargo if you flew with them. You could not take them in the cabin with you. Um,
Not well, not three. Although I have seen like a golden retriever, not that's not a service dog, crawl under. I was like,
yeah, but they technically have to be in a carry like there's a lot of like rules and like every airline is also different. There's also like a maximum number of pets that you can have per cabin. So like first class has a certain amount and then economy has a certain amount. It's really I didn't know any of this until I started researching. So we got the cats medicated. We got them I never remember the name. It's an anxiety medicine that they use for humans. It's like GABA something. Um
damn.
and giving the cats the medicine was, more difficult than we had expected. We were putting it in their food, and then they're picky eaters, so they just weren't eating the food. So the morning of the flight, we just, like, shoved the little syringe down their throats, and we were like, "Just eat it!" And they did. Um, and it calmed them down. And then TSA, when we went through, I told them that I wanted to do a private screening. So Brian stayed with like collecting all of our luggage through regular, putting our bags through TSA screening. And then I went into a room with the two cats and they basically I took one cat out of a carrier. They took the carrier, put it through the screening system, brought it back. I put that cat back in, took out the next cat, they took the next carrier. It took maybe 10 minutes. This was at San Antonio Airport though, so that's a very, very small airport that normally doesn't take very long to get through. I I can update how it goes once I fly out of Seattle because I think it's going to be a little more stressful just knowing how busy of an airport SeaTac is. Um, but the cats did just fine. Like the
Do you
hardest
have
part.
pre-check?
Yeah, yeah. I have Brian and I both have pre-check, so we didn't have
Can
the
you
same.
pre-check? You can pre-check with pets.
Yeah, so the only thing that happens differently than normal is that the cats were both on my reservation, so I flew Alaska Airlines. The cats were both on my reservation, and I had to go to the ticket counter. I couldn't get my regular boarding pass on my phone. I had to go to the ticket counter and pay for the cats. So you add them to the reservation when you book your flights. You book the flights and then you reach out and you say, "Hey, I want to add pets to this." And again, this is all like for Alaska. I'm not sure how it works for other airlines. Um, and she was like, "All right, I've got them added for you." And then there was a note that I could see within my reservation that said like pets in cabin or something along those lines. And then when I got to the airport that morning to check all of our luggage, I just needed to pay. It was $100 per cat to travel with us. Um, Paid that, and then they were supposed to put a special tag on their carriers, but they didn't. So when we went to get on the flight, they had to put little tags on it, just saying that like we were okay to be traveling with them. Um, and then we just did, everything else was just as it would be. We went through TSA pre-check just how we normally would. I said, "Hey, I want to do a private screening." And then the girl the girl at TSA went, "Is it cats?" Like she could like see us on the other side. And they were like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Ugh." And I so then other people came and I was like, "What was that about?" And they were like, "Oh, she's allergic to cats." And I was like, "Okay, because that was the only reasonable explanation as
Yeah,
to why she went, ugh, it's cats." Like I get it if you're not a cat person, but that's just
yeah.
actually rude.
Well, yeah. If she's working in her and trying to be professional,
Yeah.
so you get through there. They go under the seat. And they did fine.
Yeah. So, Binks I had a little more trouble with because he's so big. So his carrier was like taller than Pearl's. And I had to sort of like shove it down because they're the soft sided carriers, not hard sided ones. But yeah, they fit under the seats. I would pull
What
once
if
we got to 10,000 feet, I pulled Binks out because he had a little like extender on his carrier to like give him a little bit more space. So I pulled him out and opened his little extender, which was nice for him.
what happens if they shit themselves or puke and like? because that's my
Yeah.
I don't mind the animal, but what if that happens? And you're like, well, now fuck, what happens next?
They say specifically in, the, like, rules that you're agreeing to that you have an absorbent, uh, liner within your carrier. So, we put in I think that in Binx's, I put, like, a pee pad that came with the carrier, and then in Pearl's, I think we just had, like, an extra towel or something in it, but neither one of them did. Binks has peed in his carrier before, like, going to the vet because he's, again, a very anxious cat. Um, but also something to keep in mind is that we spent the night before at a hotel, so they were already on edge, and for cats, at least, when they're stressed, they don't really, like, eat or drink water. So they were dehydrated before we got on the plane for sure. So there was not there was nothing in their body to expel, like, they hadn't eaten or drank anything. Um, so they were fine.
So okay, so long car rides
Mhm.
could be also stressful. Planes,
Yeah.
planes and trains, you did. I mean, you do when you have to do it, right?
Yeah.
We also know people take their pets on. They just go with their pets on vacation,
Yeah.
right? And we know there's lots of destinations, lots of hotel lines, and even rental homes that allow pets. Of course, there's an additional fee, right?
Mhm.
But they'll allow them with strict um, rules, right? In terms of, and then also disclosing to guests that which section of the hotels possibly have had pets.
Yeah.
Um, so my question for you is: are you the type that goes on vacation with your pet?
Absolutely not. No. But
No.
I will say so when most hotels say that they allow pets, what they really mean is they allow dogs, and most do not actually allow cats. La Quinta is the one hotel chain that I am aware of that allows cats. Every other hotel chain, again, they'll say they're pet friendly, but they're really dog friendly, which is so funny because dogs are the ones that like need more attention and things, but I guess cats have claws and that's why.
And can climb.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Right.
Uh, it's harder to, like, cat-proof a hotel room than it is to dog-proof because a cat will find a
Right,
small space and hide in it.
right,
Yeah.
right. So, right. I mean, I always wondered that about people going and traveling with their dogs, and then they get there, and I'm like, well, now what do you do? And
Mhm.
what if you get a phone call while you're out and about enjoying the city or the theme park or whatever, and they're like, you got to come back. Fluffy is barking incessantly.
Yeah.
We also smell shit. Must have explosive anxiety-ridden diarrhea that where it's shitting poop faucet out its ass, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm glad I brought Fluffy. Um,
Mhm.
and maybe you're bringing the pet with you on these excursions, but in a lot of cases you can't, right? Like maybe out to dinner at an outdoor place. But
Yeah.
I always am curious. I always want to ask people when I see them, especially like in Disney World, I'm like, why did you bring your dog? Why?
Yeah.
And then there they have very strict rules, right? Like has to be on a leash, can't be in the pool or the lobby area, can't and if it's out and about out of the room, it is literally just to go to the bathroom and then back. Like there's a lot of rules there, so
Yeah. And you're not
it's an
supposed to leave them
interesting
alone. That's the other part.
for not extended periods of
Yeah.
time. Yeah, yeah, they do get cute little doggy bags though, little like pet when they show up, but um,
Not worth
I
it.
get. I mean, maybe for people, some people, maybe it's cheaper. We have three dogs, so when we go away, it is not cheap to cover them, right? I get
Mhm.
that aspect. So for some people, maybe it's cheaper, but they're still paying a fee. You like you said, you paid $100 to get it on the board. If you were
Mhm.
staying in a hotel, it's probably $50 a night extra, right?
Mhm.
Once you arrive, or even if you're in a rental home, there's an additional
Yeah.
pet fee usually. Um, and what does that cover? Like, why did you pay $100 extra to have a cat? I think it is it like maybe it goes in a collective pot for when the cats do shit and piss all over the place and somebody has to clean it up extensively.
I
But like
honestly think Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
if I found out my flight was delayed because there was a cat or a dog on the flight before mine and it shit itself, I'd be furious.
Okay, but also, like, regular people shit themselves on planes on like a regular
Uh,
basis.
yeah, yeah, look, I did not at all say in one bit, no. We could do a whole episode on the nasty things I've seen on an airplane,
Oh,
and pets would be far, far, far down
yeah.
on the nastiest things I've seen. Almost humans would hit 99 of the top 100,
Yeah.
um, for sure, for sure. But uh, God,
I
yeah,
think it's
like
just
I
them
would,
trying to gouge you. Like, you were asking
yeah,
why I think that I paid that
yeah,
$100. I think it's
right.
just another fee that an airline can charge.
And the one thing, yeah, for sure. And what else are you going to do, right? Like in your case, you had
Yeah.
the only way. I mean, unless you paid somebody, there's services where you can pay someone to drive them, right? But that's not cheap.
No.
It's really cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
Um, the you did mention something. The last thing we'll talk about here is just traveling and being respectful, and whether you have or you're traveling with a pet or you have significant allergies like that TSA agent,
Mhm.
just being mindful of that. I think that's important. That if you do have significant pet allergies, the
Mhm.
hotels and things that do allow pets are generally very, very cautious about that and will do
Mhm.
extra deep cleans if you're going to a very pet friendly hotel or staying in one of those. You just have to communicate it, right?
Yeah.
Um, Although you had mentioned for the airline, what was the deal with that?
Yeah. So, when I was researching, like, to get the cats booked on a flight and what all I needed to do, I saw that there was a maximum number of pets allowed on the plane. And essentially, the way it works, from my understanding, is that if you have an allergy and you're traveling, like you're allergic to cats, you are supposed to let the airline know that you're allergic to cats, and then that's flagged. And so, like, that's your flight. There's not going to be any cats on the flight. And now, if I were to try to book after you with my cats, they would tell me, sorry, there's a severe cat allergy on this plane. Like, you can't book the cats. And same thing with, any other animal. So it's really like first come, first serve. So if you have a severe allergy to animals, make sure that when you fly, you're letting the airlines know so that they can flag that so that those animals aren't traveling on the same plane as you. Because the last thing that I think anyone wants to have happen is somebody to be on, this was a 4-hour flight for us and have a medical emergency. That's the last thing that anybody
Right,
wants. And I would
right.
hate to find out that, like, I was traveling with my cat and someone around me had a severe cat allergy and, like, had something go wrong. Like, I understand that people are allergic to cats. Usually when people tell me they don't like cats, it's that they're allergic or they, like, got scratched by one as a kid or something. Um, and I respect that. I get it.
I don't love cats, and I'm none of those things.
Yeah.
We talked about this. I like the cat dogs. I like the cats that
Yeah.
are friendly and come out, not the ones that hide under the bed all day. They're not.
You'd
They're
love
not my
Pearl.
cat.
You'd hate Binks.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. So I think that's important. So you book early and communicate
Mhm.
early and often that
Yeah.
that's the case for you, so that and then same thing. You can't wait to add the pet
Mhm.
because if you book and you're like, oh, I'll get around to it 2 months later, you call and they're like, no, sorry, you can't add a pet to this flight.
Yeah.
You're going to be changing flights and because that person will beat you out. That was interesting. I
Mhm.
did not know that.
Yeah.
So obviously, too, there's clearly vacation destinations that lend itself, right? Like the great
Mhm.
outdoors of sorts, right?
Yeah.
So you'll see people in campgrounds and I want to say HOAs. What am I thinking of though? What are the
KOAs.
KOAs? Yeah, right. And cabins, rental homes that have the space that afford the pet really the
Yeah.
best experience too because cooped up in a crate, and I crate my dogs like, but like cooped up for an extended period of time in an unfamiliar place is anxiety inducing, right? And so
Yeah.
um time to let them run and do their thing. So all right, well, we say let's just go, but you're bringing your pets or you're not. That's really the question,
Yeah.
and we'd love to know, have you traveled with pets? Have you experienced the a pet disaster while traveling
Oh god.
via air, planes, trains, or automobiles? We'd love to hear about it. Um, and the nastier or the most more ridiculous wins for sure.
But also, like, that makes me sad for you and your pet if you have experienced that.
I feel like we'd hear more from people who have experienced it as the like
Bystander.
not yeah the bystander who was like, I do know somebody who the cat had explosive spray diarrhea and it got all over everybody's like
Oh
stuff
my
and it
god.
was not yeah it didn't go well. It didn't go well. But
Oh.
I also had my own child just bend over in a plane seat and just puke right on the floor, and then I was like,
How old was she when
"What
she
just
did
happened?"
that?
Not that young.
It
I
was
was like,
last
"What?"
year.
Oh, she probably was like not. I mean, it was like right before COVID, but I was like, it was very bumpy, and she was looking at her screen, and it was very turbulent. So I
Oh
think she
god.
just got like,
She didn't know
yeah,
it was
like
coming.
motion sickness,
Yeah.
and just puked. And I was like, "What did you do?" They gave me some paper towels and said, "Here you go, clean it up." It was not like, well, what am I gonna do here?
See, I
We
would
were
rather
like,
travel with a plane full of pets than a plane full of children for exactly those types of reasons.
yes. Well, I can't disagree with that actually. All right, wrap this shit up.
Th- Thank you, everyone, so much for listening, subscribing, downloading, engaging with us. Yeah, tell us your traveling with pets story, even if it's been like driving with your pets, because I've done that shit too, and that is also very stressful, but in a drastically different way. Um, yeah, but on that note, let's just go.